What about the Morrison inquiry after the legal advice? Is that justified?
Well, again, we heard the Deputy Prime Minister saying that Mr Morrison must pay a significant price. His own language talks of it about getting square with Morrison. The Attorney General talking about how witness should be compelled even before we've seen the basis by which any inquiry. All of their actions point this towards being a witch hunt. If it's about open, transparent government, everyone's on board, but it has to be seen, talked about, and the terms of reference have to be framed in that way.
So with the language of the Deputy Prime Minister, why is that not appropriate, given his view, and that view of the Solicitor General, in fact, was that Mr Morrison's behaviour undermined responsible government?
Then have an inquiry to talk about responsible government. But the Deputy Prime Minister came out to say Mr Morrison must face severe consequences, must pay a political price. That's the language of a witch hunt. And you've got other Labor ministers coming out saying, well, the good thing about a witch hunt is you might find witches. So there's multiple ministers now saying this is about retribution. Well, that's not the point of an inquiry. That's not how we strengthen democracy. Labor's own words, hang them on their own petard, Kieran, and we'll call that out. So this is not about consistency or conventions or good government. The Deputy Prime Minister has made it perfectly clear. This is about making sure Morrison pays a severe point. Minister Ayres saying this is about hunting witches. These are their words, Kieran, not mine.
On to a few other issues, the oil and gas, the 2022 offshore petroleum exploration. It's been announced by the Resources Minister, criticised by the Greens and Teal Independents. Do you welcome the fact that the government's undertaking this regular exploration and being true to its word in shoring up some of those traditional energy supplies?
Government should. Gas is always going to be a key transition fuel for us as we move into areas of hydrogen or other dispatchable energy types. So we need to continue the exploration for gas, both offshore and onshore. My state of Queensland is a great example of responsible, sensible onshore gas exploration. Unfortunately, other states have locked it up. But we need to continue to find and exploit those resources for our own use, for our own cheap dispatchable energy as a transition fuel and as a good citizen of the world. So I think the government's doing the right thing here.
The Coalition had said that the Labor government would be beholden to the Greens and the crossbench. This decision suggests they're far from that.
It's a decision, and this decision on the surface would appear to be a good one. Long time to run yet for the government, Kieran.
On to the Jobs Summit, the ACTU calling for industry-wide bargaining. Given enterprise bargaining is not working, is this the right course?
Now, that's just a return to the old 50s, 60s and 70s of pattern bargaining. That's all it is, where if one workplace gets a wage increase, every workplace right across the country gets a wage increase. It's a recipe for disaster. If enterprise bargaining is struggling, find out what the issues are with enterprise bargaining and address that. But returning to the bad old days where the unions get to march into every workplace is not where we need to be. Unionism is on the decline for a range of good reasons. One of them is better management, better practices, better systems, normalisation of how awards and structures are done. Let's not return to the bad old days, Kieran.
But you can see why they've got a gripe when productivity has increased but wages haven't to the same extent.
Well, actually, productivity hasn't increased, Kieran. That's the problem. Wage increases should always be tacked onto, be part of and come out of productivity increases. But productivity growth has been sluggish. That is one of the problems. Now, we've reached full employment, which is superb, speaking as the Employment Minister from 3 months ago, but productivity is the great issue we have to address. And on the back of productivity, that's when we'll start to see wage increases moving. Without productivity, it feeds into inflation. And right now, inflationary pressures are building. So the government needs to tread very carefully when it comes to their rhetoric and language on wages and wage increases. But productivity is indeed the area to focus on.
David Littleproud is attending the summit next week. In hindsight, should your leader have engaged so your voice is heard?
I'll let Peter Dutton speak for himself. As the leader of the Nationals has decided to attend, all power to the Leader of the Nationals in terms of the decision that he's made. All of these, if they're set up properly with strong terms of reference, open and transparent and inclusive, they can have a good outcome. Unfortunately, with this particular summit, you're seeing heavy skews in certain parts of industry where other areas are left out. Not having banking, for example, that employs over 200,000 people would appear to be a mistake in not including them.
And just finally, I know you've had a fair bit to say about the changes in disclosure rules for superannuation funds. Yesterday, I had the Deputy CEO of Industry Super saying that already any fund arrangements with unions, whether it be a pay arrangement for directors of super funds, that all of that is disclosed and nothing will change under the government's rules on this. Does that placate you?
No, not at all, because he's wrong. Bless him. I've also met with him and his team, and they gave me the same half-assed line. The bottom line is sponsoring payments, supporting union picnics, sponsoring magazines and the like aren't appropriately declared. They aren't out there to see. The next industry super will say, oh, these are confidential contracts and we can't do it. The bottom line is people have to give up their superannuation monies. It's compulsory. It goes to these large funds. What these funds spend on, $85 million over 5 years, the AFR reports, is not disclosed. Members can't see it, and members are entitled to see where their money has gone. This Labor government said nothing about these changes during the election, yet the first thing Treasury does is to put this into place. They campaigned on transparency, and the first thing Treasury is doing is withdrawing transparency. They have no mandate for it. They didn't take it for the election, and there is absolutely and utterly no requirement to change it, except that all the industry fund member meetings are starting in the next few weeks. Who would have thought the timing, Kieran?
Liberal frontbencher Stuart Robert, we're out of time. Appreciate it. Thanks.
Great to talk to you.